Some Amish people are millionaires. They do not advertise it, do not flaunt it, and did not use a single piece of modern technology to earn it. The wealth came from the same trades their great-grandparents practiced, just done at a scale the outside world did not see coming. The shift. One generation ago, 90% of Amish families earned their income from farming. Today, 90% do not. The shift happened inside a single generation, not because farming failed, but because land became scarce and expensive as Amish populations continued to grow. What replaced farming was not factory employment or corporate work. It was a small business. Family-owned shops, construction crews, and home-based trades filled the gap. The community became wealthier in the process, without surrendering a single tradition that defined it. Amish businesses never fail. Over 90% of Amish businesses survive past 5 years. The national average for American small businesses over the same period sits closer to 50%. The reasons behind the gap are consistent and documented. Amish business owners carry minimal debt, borrowing only when strictly necessary and repaying without default. They use family labor, which costs nothing in wages or benefits. They spend almost nothing on advertising, relying instead on community reputation built over generations. And they operate without the overhead that quietly destroys most small businesses before they find their footing. The model works because it was never designed to impress anyone. The furniture empire. Approximately 10% of all domestic home furniture shipped across the United States is Amish-made. That number comes from workshops that are, in most cases, located on family properties, staffed by fewer than 10 workers and equipped with hand tools rather than automated machinery. Buyers pay a premium for Amish furniture because the reputation behind it is real pieces, are built to last decades, sometimes generations, in homes that will outlast the people who first bought them. Some of the larger Amish woodworking operations generate over $5 million in annual sales. None of them have a marketing department. The construction. Amish construction crews travel up to 2 hours from their communities to build homes, barns, and commercial structures for non-Amish clients. They do residential work, commercial work, roofing, masonry, framing, and finish carpentry, and they do it at prices that consistently attract repeat customers. The competitive advantage is structural. Amish construction companies operate with family labor that requires no benefits, no human resources administration, and no turnover. Skills are passed from father to son through direct apprenticeship rather than formal training programs. The crews that arrive on a job site have often been working together since childhood, which produces a level of coordination and efficiency that no assembled workforce can replicate. Word of mouth has sustained this business for generations without a single advertisement placed anywhere. An 80-acre farm. A farm finance expert quoted in the New York Times calculated the earning potential of a typical Amish farm operation in detail. An 80-acre farm carrying 40 dairy cows with 5 additional acres dedicated to tobacco, vegetables, and fruit could generate a gross income of over $125,000 annually. The inputs required to reach that figure are modest seed, basic supplies, and the labor of the family itself. There are no electricity costs for automated milking systems in stricter communities, no hired hands drawing wages, and no management fees paid to outside consultants. In 2023, farming Amish households averaged approximately $52,000 in annual income, a figure that understates actual living standards because so much of what the farm produces is consumed directly by the family rather than purchased. $94,000 household. Non-farming Amish households averaged approximately $94,000 in annual income in 2023, a figure that sits above the United States median household income of roughly $74,000 for the same year. What makes this comparison more striking is what the Amish household does not spend money on. There is no electric bill, because most Amish communities do not draw power from public utility grids. There is no car payment, no car insurance, and no fuel costs beyond what horses require. There are no cable subscriptions, No streaming services, no smartphone plans, and no payments on home appliances purchased on credit. The income that remains after basic household needs are met is a substantially larger proportion of total earnings than the same income would produce for an average American family carrying the full weight of modern monthly expenses. Investing the surplus. Wealthier Amish families do not leave their surplus sitting idle. The most common investment is land purchase to expand existing farm operations or acquired specifically to give the next generation a place to begin. It is not uncommon for established Amish families to provide low-interest loans directly to young couples starting out, bypassing the banking system entirely. The community functions as its own financial infrastructure, circulating wealth internally in ways that keep it from leaving the settlement. In more progressive communities, some Amish individuals invest in mutual funds and stocks quietly, without the visibility that would attract attention from church leadership or community opinion. The goal in all cases is identical: to build something that the next generation can inherit and expand, rather than something that produces personal comfort in the present and leaves nothing behind. The quilt market. Museum-quality Amish quilts now sell for up to $15,000 at auction. A skilled quilter working steadily throughout the year can contribute between $3,000 and $8,000 to her family's annual income through commissioned work and direct sales. The global market for handmade Amish textiles exists for a specific reason. No machine has yet produced what decades of hand-stitching creates. Every piece is unique, constructed from fabric chosen by the maker, assembled without patterns printed from a computer, and finished entirely by hand. The craft is learned from mothers and grandmothers, practiced from childhood, and refined over a lifetime. What the outside world now pays premium prices for was never intended as a commercial product. It was functional bedding for cold winters, practical covers for large families. The market attached itself to the tradition long after the tradition was already centuries old. The community. Two-thirds of Amish businesses employ at least one family member of the owner. Large Amish families, averaging 7 to 8 children per household, produce an internal workforce that requires no recruitment, no onboarding, and no salary negotiation. Beyond the immediate family, the broader community functions as a business support system that has no direct equivalent in the modern economy. Barn raisings bring hundreds of community members together to complete in a single day what would cost a non-Amish farmer tens of thousands of dollars in contracted labor. Quilting bees, harvest frolics, and community construction events accomplish major projects at zero labor cost to the hosting family. When a business faces difficulty, the community responds before any bank is contacted. When a family loses a property to fire or storm, rebuilding begins immediately, funded and built by neighbors who expect nothing in return except the same response when their turn comes. The barter economy. Before any Amish business owner deposits a dollar into a bank account, a parallel economy has already been operating beneath the surface. Barter, the direct exchange of goods and services without money changing hands, remains an active and functional part of daily Amish economic life in ways that do not appear in any income statistic. The principle is straightforward and documented in Amish community research. Make it yourself first, trade with someone who has it second, buy it with cash only if neither of those options is available. One documented example from Holmes County describes a family that accumulated more worn clothing than they could use. Rather than discard it, they cut the fabric into strips and wove the material into rugs. When they had produced 50 or 60 rugs, they traded the entire lot for a heifer, a transaction that required no money, no loan, and no bank. The heifer then produced milk, calves, and income for years. A single act of resourcefulness became a productive asset. This barter logic extends across the community in less dramatic forms every week. Surplus produce is exchanged between households. Skilled tradesmen exchange services without invoicing each other. A neighbor who helps frame a barn receives help in return during harvest season. The economic activity is real, consistent, and entirely invisible to the income surveys and census data that attempt to measure Amish financial well-being from the outside. The numbers researchers publish almost certainly undercount what actually moves through an Amish settlement in a given year. Non-Amish customers. The customer base for Amish businesses is not primarily Amish. Most Amish furniture shops, construction companies, roadside stands, and quilt operations depend on non-Amish buyers for the majority of their revenue. This relationship developed without any deliberate marketing effort and has sustained itself for decades entirely through reputation. Non-Amish customers return to Amish businesses for reasons they consistently describe in the same terms. The work is done correctly, the price is honest, and the product lasts. Bank managers in communities with significant Amish populations have publicly noted that Amish clients default on loans at rates that approach zero. Contractors who hire Amish subcontractors describe crews that arrive when scheduled, complete what they committed to, and do not require supervision to maintain quality standards. Furniture buyers who purchase from Amish workshops describe tables and chairs that remain in use across generations, while comparable mass-produced pieces require replacement within years. The commercial value of this reputation is difficult to quantify, but straightforward to observe. The label Amish-made functions as a trust signal in markets where trust has become increasingly rare and increasingly valuable. No advertising agency built that signal. No brand consultant engineered it. It accumulated across 3 centuries of consistent behavior, honest pricing, reliable work, and products that do exactly what they were made to do. In a market where mass production has trained consumers to expect planned obsolescence, the Amish simply kept building things the way they always had. The market noticed. The rule about money. The Amish relationship with money is governed by a principle that operates beneath every business decision and every purchase. Wealth is a means to an end, not the end itself. This is not a casual attitude or a cultural preference. It is a spiritual conviction enforced by community standards that treat visible displays of wealth as a form of pride, one of the most serious violations of Amish values. An Amish millionaire will not build a larger house than his neighbors. He will not purchase a more expensive buggy to signal his success. He will not dress differently, eat differently, or behave in any way that separates him from a community member who earns a fraction of what he does. The enforcement mechanism is social and constant. Community members observe each other closely, and any behavior that suggests an individual is prioritizing personal wealth over communal humility is addressed informally at first, through conversation, and more formally if the behavior continues. This creates an economic environment with a structural ceiling on personal consumption that has no equivalent in the broader American economy. Money that cannot be spent on visible luxury must go somewhere. It goes into land for the next generation, low-interest loans to young families, contributions to community medical costs, and reinvestment into the business itself. The constraint that prevents Amish wealth from becoming visible is the same force that keeps that wealth circulating inside the community rather than flowing outward into consumption. It is, in effect, a self-reinforcing engine. Wealth without wanting. The Amish did not set out to build an economic success story. They set out to live the way they believed they should simply, communally, and apart from a world they viewed as spiritually dangerous. The financial success arrived as a consequence, not as a goal. The values that drive Amish life, zero tolerance for unnecessary debt, absolute commitment to the quality of what their hands produce, total reliance on family and community over hired labor and outside services happen to generate exactly what a quality-hungry market is willing to pay for. A label that reads Amish-made carries commercial weight that no advertising campaign created and no marketing budget sustains. It was built over 300 years of consistent work, and it cannot be replicated by any competitor in any shorter time frame. In 2023, non-farming Amish households averaged $94,000 annually. Businesses in their community fail at a rate of less than 5%. Some of those businesses generate $5 million or more in annual revenue from workshops on family properties, staffed by relatives, selling products built by hand without a single automated process. None of this was the plan. The plan was simply to keep doing what their grandparents did, the same way for the same reasons. The market found them. It keeps finding them. And every year, the outside world pays more for what the Amish never stop making, because in a world that produces everything faster and cheaper than the year before, they're still the ones who build things that last.